Hey folks, Randy here with Dual Cut and Trim. So, getting closer to the lawn season, and I'm one of the guys that does things on contracts. I know a lot of guys don't, and they use that as a selling point. Honestly, I do put things on contract. I don't necessarily use it as a selling point, but my customers actually do appreciate it. The thing that I want to make clear is that I don't call it a contract. I mean, it's what it is, I guess, but I refer to it as a service agreement. And this kind of harkens back to when I was a foster care worker for the state of Maryland. Every 6 months or 3 months, or I can't remember what the frequency was, but we would do these things called service agreements with our clients. And what it was is you would work on this with the client to try and outline what was expected of both parties. Okay, so it's like, I don't know, if it was a parent that was dealing with a drug addiction, they would agree, in their part of the agreement, it would say the parent agrees to go to drug treatment, submit drug sample or urine samples at the worker's request, abstain from all use of drugs, stuff like that. And on my end, it would say the worker agrees to provide referrals to drug treatment, to assist with transportation if reasonable, to take urine samples for drug tests, blah, 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 blah. And both parties would sign it and get a copy of it. And the whole point of it was kind of, it wasn't a type of deal where you were trying to catch somebody or get somebody or, or show that they were doing something wrong. It was really to protect both parties. So while if the parent didn't do what they were supposed to do in regards to drug treatment, I could say, when we went to court, I could say the parent agreed to do this and they didn't do it. But on the same agreement, if I didn't provide referrals to drug treatment in a timely manner, they could go to the judge and say, I wanted to go to treatment. He wouldn't give me the referral the way he said he would, or, he didn't test me, so, there wasn't enough opportunities to show that I was being clean. So it goes both ways. And so when I approach my customers about our service agreement, I come at it from that place. This is an agreement that outlines what's expected of you and what's expected of me, just so that everybody's clear on it. I won't go on a customer's property unless they've signed our service agreement electronically, or the rare occasion where it's done in person. I won't do it unless we've gotten their consent. And so the first couple of years I was doing this, I had a very, very generic terms of service that basically covered everything: lawn mowing, sod, pruning, fertilization, even though I didn't do that. All kinds of stuff. And it got to be a little confusing for the customers because they I would have people contact me like, hey, I see that your lawn mowing is $35 per cut, but then I also see that you charge $40 per man hour. Is that an additional charge? And it would be like, nah, and then you'd have to explain it to them. And it didn't happen a lot, but like 15-20 times a year. And so I realized last year that we needed to kind of separate things out, especially now where I would say probably 95% of our revenue comes from lawn mowing. It makes sense to have something specific for lawn care. So I've been developing it. It's not done until we start sending out the lawn mowing contracts for renewal. But I figured I would go over the terms of service with you guys, and hopefully it'll be beneficial to you. I'll link it in this video, so and it's kind of a living document, so whenever you're watching this, if you click on that link, it's going to be the most up-to-date version of this. And honestly, like I don't really have a problem with helping people. If you want to use it for your business, go for it. I don't care. I've given it to a couple different people. Check over it with your lawyer first, just because if you're in especially if you're in a different state than I am. Yeah, go for it, use it. All right. So I've got it on my company website, so it's accessible at any time. All right, so it says at the top, following terms and conditions of the agreement are below for yourself, dual cut and trim. Please read carefully prior to accepting this estimate. This contract sets forth the terms of our agreement and provides important information about the contractor, the worker to be performed, and the owner/agent's obligations. Lawn maintenance terms and conditions. First section, contractor responsibility. This is not that long, that's why I'm reading it. Dual and cut and trim shall perform work in accordance with written terms contained or referred to in this agreement. Dual and cut and trim reserves a right to renegotiate the contract when the price or scope of work is affected by changes to any local, state, or federal law, regulation, or ordinance that goes into effect after the agreement is signed or changes requested by customer. All employees shall be competent, qualified, and shall be United States citizens or legal residents authorized to work in the United States. And no, that is not a comment on the current political climate. Stop going there. Insurance and liabilities. The contractor agrees to provide general liability insurance, automotive liability insurance, workman's comp if required, any other insurance required by law. It is understood and agreed that the contractor is not liable for any damage of any kind that is not caused by the negligence of the contractor, its agents, or employees. Contractor will comply with all licenses and permits requirements of the city, state, federal governments, as well as any other requirements of law. Whew. Now that's in there for those folks that got the fire pit that's been sitting in one spot for 6 years, and then you start mowing their lawn, and then one day they say, hey, the bottom fell out of it, it's your fault. And it's like, no, it's because it's been sitting out for 6 years and it rusted out. That's for those folks. That ain't on us. Billing. Lawn mowing is invoiced at the time of each service, not after each service, at the time of each service. Okay, so that means there's some customers that their card gets charged at the beginning of the service. Customers that card get charged at the end. Honestly, just kind of depends on what happens. Sometimes you mess up, you hit start and then hit complete, like back to back, and then it brings you to the invoice screen. And so, I'm there, I'm going to do the service, but I'll go ahead and charge the card. But anyway, lawn mowing is invoiced at the time of each service. The customer is required to keep an active credit or debit card on file at all times, and this card will be charged at the time of each service. If the card is declined at the time of service, the contractor will charge the card again the following day. If the card is declined again, a $5 service fee will be added to and the contractor will attempt to charge the card again after 5 days. If the card is again declined, the service will be paused until payment is made. Those terms are in there just in case I'm not able to get a hold of the customer. Sometimes that happens. In a real life setting, if the card gets declined, we would email the customer, and 9 times out of 10 they get it handled the same day and it's not an issue. Any invoices that are 30 days past due will be charged a late fee of $30 from the date of the invoice for each month it is past due. In the event of default, collection charges and/or attorney's fees will be additional. Services will be canceled immediately until payment is received to bring account current. Customers have 48 hours from the time a job is to complete to notify Dual and Cut and Trim of any dissatisfaction regarding any job done by Dual and Cut and Trim through the customer portal or by my email to randy@dualandcutandtrim.com. Here's an important part. If there is no contact made within 48 hours, it is agreed that the job was completed to satisfaction and reimbursement should not be expected. That doesn't mean it won't happen, but you shouldn't expect it. And that's come up from customers that, like bi-weekly customers who you charge their card and 10 days later they say, you know what, you did a crappy job, I want my money back. No. All right, lawn mowing. We're going to get on the actual meat of this sucker. During each visit, as needed, we will remove normal trash and debris from lawn areas and dispose of as appropriate. Mow lawn areas, trim turf areas, around trees, mailbox, mulch beds, along the fence, etc. Edge of sidewalk, drive, and curbs as appropriate. That as appropriate could be, I'm not saying it should be, but could be translated if I feel like it. No. Just kidding. Dual and Cut and Trim does not bag clippings. Grass clippings are a valuable natural source of nitrogen, which is vital for a healthy lawn. If there are items in your yard, such as lawn chairs, fire pits, toys, or other items, they will only be moved if the dual and cut and trim employee feels it can be moved with reasonable effort and if there is little risk of damaging the item. It is the employee's prerogative to make the determination as to which items do or do not meet this criteria. And there's a specific person that's in there for. I had a job last year that I quoted online, and the problem with quoting online is if somebody's got 1 million lawn ornaments, that doesn't necessarily translate on a satellite image. And so I went to do one yard, and dude, I'm not kidding, had to be 20 30 items in their front yard, and it was a small front yard. And I mowed their yard twice, and both times they pitched a huge fit about the fact that I didn't move all the stuff. And it was like some of this stuff, it was like those antique plow things, or it was like those lighthouses with like a water thing in it. And I'm like, I'm not moving this stuff. No way. There's no way. Something's gonna get broken. So that's why that's in there. And also, for people with like trampolines and stuff like that. I'm not moving it unless I feel like I can move it. And a lot of my customers think that I am stronger than I look, which is true. But I don't necessarily want to go full muscle capacity on your stuff, especially if it breaks. And then I gotta buy you a new one, and I don't want to buy you new stuff. I want to buy myself new stuff. All right, removal of fallen branches is not included in your basic service. Fallen branches will be piled in one location on the turf, and yada yada, blah blah blah. Fun stuff like that. It gets into that one. I get into a lot of minutia that I don't feel like going over. Property lines. Prior to the commencement of the work, the customer will provide dual and cut and trim with information as to the location of property lines and subsurface utility and service lines. Tell me where your sewer caps are. Man, I'm tired of replacing those. Good Lord. Although I didn't replace any last year, so I don't know what I'm fussing about. Contractor may rely on the accuracy and completeness of all such information and shall not be liable for damages or costs resulting from any errors or omissions in this regard. Unless otherwise provided for herein, contractor will be responsible for obtaining any municipal building permits required in relation to the performance of the work if applicable, which why would it be if I'm cutting grass? It's not. And I'll replace the sewer caps, Just tell me where they are, you know what I mean? Pets. There's a story here. For safety reasons, dual and cut and trim team members will not enter a front or backyard if a pet, such as a cat, dog, turtle, etc., is loose in that area. If an animal is on one of those areas, it will be considered an unserviceable at that time. The team member will attempt to contact the homeowner if they are home, but if unsuccessful in that attempt, the team member will service what areas are serviceable, and the customer will be billed for the full service amount, and the area will be serviced on the next scheduled service date. Here's the story. So I go to mow a customer. This was actually 2 years ago. I go to mow a customer's lawn. I've been servicing them for a couple of years at that point. And I show up at their property, and everything's going fine. I trim the front yard because I trim first. And I trim the backyard, and I'm going along, and I see this random, massive turtle decoration. So I get close to trimming that turtle decoration, and all of a sudden that turtle decoration goes, and I'm like, oh shoot, that thing's real. They told me later it was an African tortoise, I believe is what they called it. That was their pet. I'm an idiot, okay? I didn't realize that was a pet. I was just like, whoa, Maryland's got some big tortoises walking around here. And I left all the stuff open. And fortunately for me, that tortoise never tried to leave the yard because I was not trying to keep it in the yard. Like I said, I'm a moron. It didn't even occur to me that tortoise was a pet. And so, yeah, so, and the kicker was that stupid thing. I'm sorry, not stupid in case you're watching, ma'am. That beautiful creature, was chasing me throughout the yard. It was something else. So yeah, and so ever since then, I've always kind of been wary about it. I've never actually had it in my terms of service. But if you have a animal, a pet or something in the backyard, and I show up, I'm not going back there. There's too much risk. There's risk to me. I could get injured if your animal bites me. I don't know what the bite of an African tortoise is like, but I don't want to find out either. And I don't want to get bit by your dog. So if I see a dog in the backyard, I don't care how big it is. I don't care how small it is. I'm not going back there, you know. And there's been several times where there's been a woof, woof, woof type dog. Not going back there. Sorry. If your dog gets out, it's going to be a huge problem. If your dog bites me, that's going to be a huge problem for me. And God forbid it gets hit by the equipment. Have you seen the Facebook posts where, like, because, you know, nobody ever says, my dog's an idiot and ran into a trimmer. That's never what they say. They always say the evil lawn guy hit my dog with his trimmer. Maybe he did, but like, yeah. Anyway, and God for oh my Lord, and if like the animal got hit by one of the mowers, like, oh, that would be so bad. All right, client responsibility. Access to job site, prompt payment, notice of defect or damage to be reported within 3 business days, dual cut and trim. In most cases, contractor will address or remedy the problem within 2 to 5 days after receiving client's request. In some cases, it may take longer depending on circumstances beyond the contractor's control, including but not limited to weather, inappropriate time of year to correct the turf or landscape problem, or non-availability of materials. In the unlikely event that the contractor or client cannot agree on the mutually acceptable solution to written requests, contractor will consider acceptance of a cost reduction to amount due or performing additional work at no charge. And then last but not least, service cancellation. This is an important one because this is the one that sets people's mind at ease when it comes to signing service agreements or contracts. Excuse me, service cancellation. Service cancellation can be initiated at any time for any reason by either party and will take effect immediately unless otherwise specified. The only exception to this will be if cancellation is requested. This has happened to me. If cancellation is requested while a service is being performed. In this case, the cancellation will be processed once the service is completed. Service should be canceled via email, and the customer will receive cancellation confirmation sent to the email we have on file. And then, you know, we look forward to beautifying your personal investment. I've had that happen before where, like, a stay-at-home customer has waited for me to show up. I'm mowing the lawn. I don't check my email while I'm mowing for obvious reasons. And they asked me to cancel. And it even said, like, I hope, you know, you get this before you arrive. And it was like, it was time stamped like 10 minutes after I'd shown up at her house, and her car was in the driveway. And so I charged her card on file, and she was like, hey, I asked you not to come out today. And I was like, nice try, lady. You asked me to come out, not to come out after I was already here. So no, not doing that. So those are the terms and services we have on that we require our customers to agree to before we'll mow their yard. It sounded like a lot. This video is pretty long. It's not, honestly. If I wasn't reading it out loud, it'd take about 30 seconds. But it's really important for our customers that we do that. And it works out great for us. It protects all parties. You know, if God forbid we're on a property and somebody gets all fussy and was like, hey, what are you doing on my property? We've got a signed agreement. And it just makes everything go much smoother. You know. So I hope this is helpful to you. I like I said, I'll put a link in this video so that you can take a look at them for yourself. Feel free to use them or don't. I don't care. You know, do what you want. I don't really compete based on the quality of the terms of service. So it would be a weird thing to compete on. This is Randy with Dual Cut and Trim. Have a good one.